Your kidneys have never sent you a text message. They have never called. They have never knocked on the door from the inside and said something is wrong in a language you could clearly hear. What they have done for months or possibly years is adjust, compensate, work harder with less. Filter your blood through a system that is carrying more burden than it was designed to sustain without producing a single symptom clear enough to make you stop and question what you are eating. That is the nature of kidney damage. It is silent until it is not. And by the time it is not, the function that has been lost is gone permanently, because kidney nephrons, the individual filtering units that determine how well your kidneys perform, do not regenerate. Everyone that is lost through accumulated daily damage reduces the capacity of the organ in ways that the remaining nephrons must compensate for, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of accelerating decline that the research has mapped in extraordinary detail. The 5 foods covered in this video are not poisons in the dramatic sense. They are not substances that would appear on any list of dangerous foods. Several of them appear on lists of healthy foods, recommended by sources that have never specifically evaluated their effect on kidney tissue in adults over 60 whose filtration capacity has already begun its age-related decline. They are foods that your kidneys are processing every day at a cost that is accumulating invisibly in the tissue responsible for keeping your blood clean. A 2022 landmark study published in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology examined dietary patterns in adults over 60 with accelerated kidney function decline and compared them to matched adults whose kidney function remained stable across 8 years of follow-up. The researchers identified 5 specific food categories that appeared consistently in the diets of adults with faster decline rates after adjusting for every known kidney risk factor, including blood pressure, diabetes, protein intake, and medication use. These 5 foods were the dietary variables that independently predicted accelerated decline when everything else was held equal. The 5th food generates the least surprise because some awareness of its kidney effects exists in popular health culture. The first is the food that the research consistently places at the top of the list of dietary drivers of kidney function decline in adults who otherwise appear to be eating carefully, and that appears in the daily routines of a majority of adults who have been told their kidney function is declining without ever being specifically advised about this particular food. Before we begin, tell us in the comments right now, how old are you and where are you watching from? And have you been told that your kidney function is declining or that your creatinine or GFR is outside the normal range? Drop it below. We read and respond to every single comment. Number 5. Canned soups and packaged broths, used as a regular meal base. Canned soups and packaged broths occupy a specific position in the diets of health-conscious older adults that makes them particularly worth examining. They are perceived as gentle, nourishing, and appropriate for adults who are watching what they eat. They are warm, comforting, low in calories, and seemingly far removed from the fried and processed foods that most people associate with dietary risk. The kidney-specific problem with regular canned soup consumption involves 2 compounds that appear together in virtually every commercial soup product and that create a compound kidney burden greater than either would produce independently. The first is sodium. A single serving of most commercial soups contains between 700 and 1,200 milligrams of sodium. For an adult whose kidney optimal daily sodium target is 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams, a single bowl of commercial soup can consume more than half of that entire daily budget before any other meal has been eaten. The tubular sodium transport burden this creates at the meal following the soup, when the kidney is already managing elevated sodium from the soup itself, is compounded rather than simply added. The second is inorganic phosphate additives, which appear in most commercial soups as flavor enhancers under ingredient names including disodium phosphate, sodium phosphate, and calcium phosphate. These additives are absorbed at 90 to 100% efficiency compared to the 40 to 60% absorption rate of naturally occurring phosphorus in whole foods, delivering a phosphate load to the kidney that is roughly twice as large as the same amount of phosphorus from an unprocessed protein source. A study published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases found that adults who consumed commercial soup more than 4 times weekly showed significantly worse kidney function markers at 3-year follow-up than those who consumed it once or fewer times weekly, independent of total sodium intake, suggesting that the phosphate additive burden, rather than sodium alone, was driving the kidney-specific effect. Making soup at home with low-sodium broth or water and fresh ingredients eliminates the phosphate additive burden entirely. The kidney processes homemade soup fundamentally differently than it processes the commercial version, because the chemical composition of what arrives at the tubular cells is genuinely different. Number 4. Processed breakfast cereals. Eaten daily breakfast cereals are one of the most consistently recommended foods for older adults across every major dietary guideline, largely because of their fiber content, their fortification with vitamins and minerals, and their convenience as a morning meal. The kidney-specific concern with processed breakfast cereals involves 3 separate compounds that appear in most commercial cereals and that affect kidney function through 3 distinct mechanisms simultaneously. The first is added sugar, present in most commercial cereals at quantities that produce significant postprandial blood glucose spikes. Repeated daily blood glucose spikes activate the advanced glycation end product formation pathway, producing compounds that accumulate in kidney glomerular tissue and contribute to glomerulosclerosis, the scarring of the kidney's filtering units that is one of the primary structural changes underlying chronic kidney disease. The second is inorganic phosphate additives in the form of fortification compounds. Many commercial cereals are fortified with iron, calcium, and other minerals in inorganic additive forms that are absorbed at the same high efficiency as the phosphate additives in canned soups. The morning cereal that appears to be delivering beneficial minerals is simultaneously delivering a phosphate load the kidney must manage before the day has properly begun. The third is sodium, present in commercial cereals at levels most people are unaware of because cereal does not taste salty. A single serving of many popular breakfast cereals contains 150 to 300 milligrams of sodium, and multiple servings consumed daily add to the sodium burden from other meal sources without the consumer registering them as a sodium contributor. A 2020 study examining breakfast patterns and kidney function markers in adults over 60 found that those who consumed commercial breakfast cereals daily showed kidney tubular stress markers that were significantly elevated compared to those who ate whole food breakfasts, including eggs, plain oatmeal, or fresh fruit with yogurt, after controlling for total caloric intake and overall dietary quality. Before we continue, if this has been useful so far, hit that like button so more people can find this information. Subscribe and turn on notifications. New content every week. Number 3. Dark colas and phosphoric acid containing beverages. Dark colas have been discussed in the context of kidney health primarily because of their sugar content and their caffeine content. The compound that makes them specifically kidney damaging in a way that distinguishes them from other sugar-containing beverages is neither of those. It is phosphoric acid, the compound that gives colas their characteristic sharp, slightly tart flavor, and that is present in every dark cola, regardless of whether it is regular, diet, or caffeine-free. Phosphoric acid is one of the most efficiently absorbed forms of inorganic phosphate available. When phosphoric acid is consumed in a beverage, it reaches the small intestine rapidly and is absorbed at near 100% efficiency before the kidney must process and excrete the phosphate load it delivers. This is the same FGF23 hormonal cascade described in the phosphate additive sections of earlier content, with the distinction that phosphoric acid from cola delivers this cascade through a liquid vehicle that is absorbed and processed faster than the same phosphate load from a solid food. A major prospective study published in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology followed adults who consumed 2 or more dark cola beverages daily over 11 years and found a 30% higher risk of chronic kidney disease development compared to those who consumed none. The association was specific to dark colas containing phosphoric acid and was not replicated in adults who consumed clear sodas or fruit-flavored beverages containing citric acid rather than phosphoric acid. The phosphoric acid was the differentiating variable. This finding is particularly relevant because diet colas, which avoid the sugar-related kidney concerns, still contain phosphoric acid. Adults who switched from regular to diet cola, believing they had eliminated the kidney risk from their cola habit, have addressed the glycemic mechanism while leaving the phosphate mechanism entirely intact. Number 2. High oxalate foods consumed daily in large quantities. The oxalate mechanism has been covered in detail in earlier content on kitchen poisons and the bladder position that affects kidney recovery. Its presence on this list reflects the research finding that oxalate-mediated kidney damage is consistently underrepresented in the dietary advice that older adults with declining kidney function receive, despite being one of the most modifiable dietary contributions to kidney tubular inflammation and functional decline. Raw spinach, Swiss chard, beet greens, rhubarb, and nuts, including almonds and cashews, all contain oxalate in concentrations that, at the quantities consumed in health-conscious daily routines including green smoothies, salad-heavy diets, and regular nut consumption, deliver oxalate loads to the kidney tubules that exceed what the aging kidney can efficiently clear. Oxalate circulating in the blood after absorption from these foods meets calcium in the kidney tubular fluid and forms calcium oxalate microcrystals. These microcrystals do not need to form a visible kidney stone to cause damage. The formation and partial clearance of calcium oxalate crystals in the tubular environment produces chronic low-grade inflammation in tubular tissue that, over years of daily high oxalate consumption, accumulates into tubular scarring and measurable GFR decline. Research from the University of Chicago Kidney Stone Program tracked adults with documented hyperoxaluria, elevated urinary oxalate, who reduced their dietary oxalate intake through specific substitutions rather than general dietary restriction. After 12 months of targeted oxalate reduction, urinary oxalate normalized in 78% of participants, and GFR decline rates slowed measurably in adults who had previously shown accelerated decline attributed to tubular oxalate burden. Rotating high oxalate foods with low oxalate alternatives, including romaine lettuce, arugula, cabbage, cauliflower, and broccoli, rather than eliminating leafy greens, entirely preserves the dietary quality of the overall pattern while reducing the daily tubular oxalate burden. Ensuring adequate calcium intake at meals containing high oxalate foods, because calcium binds oxalate in the intestine before it can be absorbed when the two are present simultaneously, further reduces the oxalate load the kidney receives from a given high oxalate meal. Number 1. Excessive dietary protein. From daily protein supplements and protein-forward eating patterns. This is the dietary pattern that nephrologists describe most consistently as the single most modifiable driver of kidney function decline in adults over 60 who are actively trying to take care of their health. It requires the most nuanced explanation of any food on this list, because the underlying principle that adequate protein intake is critically important for muscle preservation and metabolic health after 60 is entirely correct. The damage is not from protein. It is from excess protein, consumed beyond what the aging body can utilize for its intended purposes, requiring the kidney to process and excrete the nitrogen-containing waste products of the excess at a sustained elevated rate that accelerates the aging of the kidney's filtering tissue. Every gram of protein consumed beyond what the body uses for muscle synthesis, enzyme production, immune function, and structural maintenance is metabolized as fuel. This metabolism produces urea, creatinine, and other nitrogen-containing waste products that must be filtered and excreted by the kidneys. The kidney manages this demand through glomerular hyperfiltration, an elevated filtration rate designed to clear the nitrogen load quickly. In healthy young kidneys with full functional reserve, hyperfiltration produces no lasting consequence. In kidneys that have lost 20 to 30% of their filtration capacity through normal aging, repeated hyperfiltration drives the remaining filtering units harder than they were designed to sustain over time. The protein-forward dietary culture of the last decade has encouraged adults over 60 to consume 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily through protein shakes, protein bars, high-protein meal construction, and supplement-heavy morning routines. For a 75-kilogram adult, this means 112 to 150 grams of protein daily. The research-supported target for adults over 60 with any degree of kidney function decline is 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilogram daily, meaning 45 to 60 grams for the same individual. The gap between what most health-conscious older adults are consuming and what their kidney can handle without accelerating its own decline is often more than double. A landmark 7-year study published in the American Journal of Kidney Diseases followed adults over 60 consuming various protein levels. Those consuming above 1.5 grams per kilogram daily showed significantly faster GFR decline than those consuming 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. The effect was most pronounced in adults whose baseline GFR was already below 75, which describes the majority of adults over 60 regardless of formal diagnosis, given the silent and consistent loss of approximately 1% of kidney function per year that characterizes normal aging after 40. A 69-year-old retired firefighter came in with GFR that had declined from 71 to 58 over 3 years. His blood pressure was controlled. He had no diabetes. He exercised 5 days a week. His diet was by every conventional metric exemplary. When his protein intake was calculated from his food diary, he was consistently consuming 145 grams of protein daily through a combination of protein shakes, Greek yogurt, chicken at 2 meals, and protein bars. His physician had told him protein was important for muscle preservation as he aged and had never given him a kidney-specific upper limit. After reducing his protein intake to 0.9 grams per kilogram, which meant 72 grams daily distributed across 3 meals, his GFR at the 12-month follow-up was 56, a decline of only 2 points compared to the 13-point decline of the preceding 3 years. His exercise routine was unchanged. His other dietary patterns were unchanged. The protein reduction alone changed the trajectory. 5 foods, each of them present in diets that appear responsible and health-conscious from every conventional metric. Canned soups carrying phosphate additive burdens invisible in their sodium reputation. Breakfast cereals fortifying themselves with inorganic minerals while simultaneously adding glycemic, phosphate, and sodium kidney burden. Dark colas delivering phosphoric acid kidney damage that persists even in the diet version. High oxalate foods creating tubular inflammation through microcrystal formation that no pain signal announces. And excess protein from the supplement and protein-forward eating culture driving glomerular hyperfiltration in kidneys that are already managing reduced reserve. Your kidneys are not asking for dramatic changes, they are asking for the information to be applied. Each of these 5 foods has a practical substitute that delivers the same dietary satisfaction without the kidney burden that the original creates. One substitution this week, then another. The kidney that has been quietly compensating has more capacity left than its current numbers suggest if you stop asking it to work harder than it has to. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these 5 surprised you most, and which of them is currently a regular part of your diet? Share in the comments below. We respond to every single one. Subscribe if you haven't already. Next week, we are covering the 5 foods that nephrologists eat every single day to actively protect their own kidneys. And number 2 is something that most people eat only occasionally, without realizing how powerfully kidney protective it is at regular daily consumption.